And so, my dear ones, here we are in our third week looking at the basic fundamental principles of science of mind. First week we looked at the infinite itself and what it is and how it is that omniscience, that the omnis that we experience in life, it's omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, all-knowing, all-powerful, and everywhere present, which means it's in you and me, and we can't get away from it. Then we looked at, what it does, the way it works is what we're doing now. What it does is now the way it works. It works through projection of consciousness. It works through the law of mind and action. It works through that creative process that is always morphing something new into something else. And today we're looking at then what it does. And so what it does very simply is that it creates. The thing itself, infinite being, the Almighty, that thing that there is no name for, because to name it is to limit it. So therefore it's called the thing itself. And in the beginning I thought that was very much a blasphemy to call God a thingy. And then I realized that it's the thing itself. Ineffable, mysterious, infinite, consequently giving the mind a hard run for its money to try and understand any part of it really, but nevertheless with the feeling that we can unravel the mystery. And that's what we're in the process of doing, unraveling the mystery of the ineffable. But we'll always be doing it, but we'll get more and more and more of the picture. Another piece of the jigsaw, another piece of the jigsaw, another piece of the jigsaw, and that's what we're doing today. So, what Spirit does, what the Creator does, what Source does, is it creates. Now, it has been given many names, as we know, and one of them is the great unmoved mover. Unmoved mover. Kind of conundrum. Spirit in and of itself is whole, perfect, and complete, always the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. However, through its process of creating, through the medium of evolution, it is always creating something else. And everything it creates in time morphs itself into more than it was in the beginning. So that this evolutionary process is continuing all of the time. So I am not what I am now, the same as what I was when I was a baby. I am more than that, as are you. And you and I will morph ourselves into something more than what we know ourselves to be on this plane too, when we're finished with this plane and when our fun here is done and we want to find another place of fun somewhere else. And that is what the creative process is, the medium of creation that's always creating and finding a new expression. Spirit is always finding new forms to create and to enter into and to become one with. So are you. As Spirit creates, so too to you. How does Spirit create? Through consciousness. How do you create? Through consciousness. What is consciousness? It's the creative process. It's the law of mind and action. It's the way we use that infinite intelligence, of which there is only infinite intelligence and nothing else. Everything comes out of it. And so we're looking at this thing and knowing that somehow or another we are copycats of the divine. Because as the divine does, so too do we. We create. So here's what we have to look at yet again, that every single thought is creative. Every thought is an act of creation. Every thought is an act of creation. And it doesn't behoove us to take that, superficially. Do you remember, some of you might remember, and I was mentioning it this morning, there was a book this thick in the 70s, or it was 80s probably, 80s, and it was called No One Can Afford the Luxury of One Negative Thought. No one can afford the luxury of one negative thought. It's not something you and I think about very much at all, because if we did, nothing that was not an affirmation would come out of our lips. Nothing but an affirmation would be spoken by means of you and me if we took that seriously and we applied it in our lives. So there's a lot of room in all of us for a deeper look into what we are creating through the thoughts we're thinking, the feelings we're feeling, and then the words that we're speaking as a consequence of that and the behavior that follows. So the question for you and for me is, what is my thinking doing? What am I doing in my life because of the way I'm thinking? And am I happy with the results my present thinking seems to be producing? Or maybe there's room in there for some kind of an adjustment. And if there's room for adjustment, am I willing to adjust? These are the questions that are posed by the 3rd chapter of the book this week for you and for me to consider and to ponder, you see. Because all power is yours now and mine now. All power, not a little bit of it, but all power is yours and mine, and it's through the process of consciousness and thinking and using the mind that's given to us to use, which of course is infinite mind. There's only one mind, we all think into it, but we all think into it differently. And because our human minds are limited, we don't always think into the infinite, intelligent mind field all the times intelligently. We are fields of intelligence within a field of intelligence with the ability to think intelligently. But we don't always do that. So today we're trying to get jazzed and excited about the fact that all power is available to us. We stand at the threshold of infinite possibility. Yours and mine is the privilege of entering in, walking in to that, and then creating any great good we so desire through the proper application of this principle of the law of mind. Yours and mine is that we have that privilege. How do we use it? It's always coming back to that. How am I going to use that? Today, too, we're looking at this thing called the infinite's presence in everything and in everyone as far as the whole organization is concerned, as we look deeper into the global heart, the one mind and the global heart, and the endeavor to create a compassionate world that works for all. Well, you know, we're always running around looking for ways to create a compassionate world that works for all, forgetting first place to stop off is in your own mind, in your own consciousness. You know, we talk about occupying Wall Street and occupying this and occupying that and occupying the other for good. But that's all useless if I haven't first occupied my mind with the good that I desire and go about that in a way that will produce the good that I desire. And I may not have to leave my house in order to do that. If I occupy my mind, all right, and you do that too, and 51% of us do it, then we can sit at home and the world will just turn itself around and become the planet of serenity that it was meant to be. Somehow we think that if we're doing, we're doing great good and it's all going to happen. I wonder if we put the same energy into being, we'd have healthier stomachs, fewer headaches, and perhaps the quickening would occur far more quickly than all the doing. And that's why we talk about the busyness of the embodiment. See, the ego is always very active. Always has to be, cannot settle for 2 iotas of a second. It always has to be up and this and this and this and this and this, gets bored very easily. And it doesn't think as deeply as it could in order to bring about good results through all of the doing. But spirit, on the other hand, is in repose all the time. Dynamic repose. And so when we're coming from that essence and from that energy, we are focused, we are centered, and the movement that occurs brings about the good that we desire. Because it's coming from a centered place, an intelligent place. It's coming from that which is more than we are. So our work is cut out for us this very week. We're also called to go beyond thinking within the box. Now we think that it's an old adage, it's an old cliche. No, think outside of the box, think outside of the box, think outside of the box. Well, Spirit would say, forget about the box altogether. You are not boxed in. All power is yours. Forget about the box. And if you think outside of the box, coming from the understanding and the awareness that the energy and the power within us, if we let it, can be the thinker within us, then there'll be wildly ecstatic, wonderful good flowing through us and to us as a result of that. And we have to be very, very focused, but not over serious about what's happening. It has to be light, joyous, light and joyous. You will know and I will know that we're getting it if in our endeavor, if in our spiritual practices, if in our way of thinking, feeling, moving and being in the world, we are light and joyous, we're going about it the right way. Serious and glum doesn't do it. Ernest Holmes says that we have to stop being, feeling, thinking in terms of depression and morbidity. Morbidity and depression must go. Again, he says, so must all of the complaining, to say the least, and so on. That has to stop if you and I are to succeed and achieve and be all that we can be, not just for ourselves, but for all of life. Because all of life is depending upon your every thought and my every thought, your every feeling and my every feeling, just as our own individual lives are. All of life depends on it. It's big. It's very big. And then they cite the story in today's, they remind us, and it's a good day to be reminded in today's thought for the day in the whole organization, of Malala, who was that young Pakistani girl who entered a school bus, and she was targeted by a Taliban gentleman, and he fired 3 shots at her. Of course, one of the bullets entered her head and then moved down her face and entered into her body. And miraculously, she was saved. She suffered dreadful injuries, but she survived it. And she, and especially on today, this weekend, when we're celebrating Martin Luther King's wonderful life and all that he's brought to us, she survived, and in spite of the danger that continued for her, she continued her work for the human right of education for women and human rights across the board. And she said, they may kill me indeed, they may succeed in taking my life, but they'll never take my dreams. And she said, because of what happened to me, my one voice, she said, so very many more voices came forward to support, this plea for human rights. So she's moved by the threat to her life. And as she said, when an idea has come and it's its time, nothing can stop it and nothing can block it. And we have people like that amongst us who really and truly can stand in their truth, no matter what, and hang on to it, and as a result bring about great good as a consequence of that. There are all kinds of ways of thinking outside of the box in lightness and joy. And in the same pamphlet that they put out for today, they tell another story of an 88-year-old lady at a service, and the minister is telling them, look, your pledges didn't really meet the budget for this year, so I'm asking you all to dig a little deeper and be more generous so that we can meet the budget this year. So if you would, please make a contribution, and if anybody can make a contribution of $1,000, then you get to pick 3 hymns, which was a big thing apparently in the community. So they collected it in, and lo and behold, one lady had, and this was an 88-year-old lady. So she stood up, and the minister said, okay, my dear, thank you so much, you can now pick 3 hymns. She said, fine. She looked all around the place, and then she said, hymn and hymn and hymn. She was thinking out of the box. She had her whole idea of him. And And it wasn't the ministers. So you see, lightness and joyousness of being is the way that we can move through life and living. It doesn't have to be all holy and somber and pious and serious and so on. Who wants that kind of energy around them? Very few people, really. People put up with it, but they don't really want it. So you and I standing at the threshold of all possibility, all power is with you. All power is with you. And it's yours for the thinking. It's yours for the openness of a mind and an openness and receptivity of a heart that can say, yes, you know what? I'll work it. What is there to lose? I'll work this thing called the creative process. I will give it a solid chance. I will watch my mind. I will watch my thinking. I will watch my feeling. And I will stop any adverse thing in its tracks before I'll allow it to enter into my consciousness and feel the feeling of it. And if we do, I'm telling you that there's nothing to stop us from realizing whatever good we want to realize, because it's ours to do. Remember, already everything we have available to us, all the gifts of the kingdom, all the treasury of heaven, or how you wish to see all the good in the universe. All of that is right at our feet, available to us. But you and I have to recognize that this is so, have to accept that this is so, have to so believe that it is so. To think anything to the contrary would be unthinkable. And then we have to own it and claim it and know it and declare it and back it up with all we're thinking and feeling, and lo and behold, that is going to manifest in your life and mine, because that's how the creative process works. That's how consciousness works. That's what it does. And that's what you do too, because as spirit is, so too are you. Why? Because you're made in the image and likeness of your creator. And the way you're in the image and likeness of your creator is through consciousness. It's not your pretty face or your lovely body. It's your consciousness, your ability to think. And the consciousness that's available to you and to me is infinitely intelligent, and everybody has that opportunity without exception. Everybody can think aright, feel aright, and as a result, experience only good and good alone. So that when you and I are able to say yes to this infinite possibility, walk through the threshold of that infinite possibility, know it, think it, feel it, act as a result of it, then, should such a one do that, and should such a one be you or me, then your light will dispel all darkness, and your life will empower, and your joy will refresh and uplift, and your consciousness will establish unity and oneness and harmony, and you will be that difference in this world. And here's the thing, my dear ones, the world awaits your decision. The world awaits your choice. The world is eager to see, is it now? Is it now? Is it now? Will she now? Will he now? Is now the moment when that mind and that heart is going to open up and catch the spark, the light, the flame, and be ignited by it, and then jump, leap into the greatness and the goodness that you are, and simply go forth out into the world, just simply to be the light that you are, to be the life that you are, to be the joy that you are, to be the goodness that you are, to be the kindness that you are, to be the music that you are, the dance that you are, the godliness that you are. That is what the world awaits by means of you. And all creation waits on tiptoe to see whether this moment today is the time when you will ignite with the spark that's always sparking within you. So what Spirit is saying to each one of us now is, you are empowered. Go and empower. So it is.